Hi folks, I got a bit of deja vu today when T-Bar sent me a message and let me know that B. Pierce 2 had released another video claiming that Jupiter's orbit had been perturbed by Nibiru based on images from SOHO. So a little while ago I debunked this. He assumed that Jupiter would make the same track across SOHO's field of view each time, which it won't. For one thing, Jupiter is inclined to Earth's orbit by about 1.3 degrees, and for another thing, SOHO's view is not fixed relative to the ecliptic anyway, so you have to compare relative to the background stars, which will allow you to see if Jupiter's really where it should be or not. But he didn't do that, and once again he's comparing SOHO images, now this time 12 years apart. In fact, Jupiter's orbit's 11.86 years long, not 12 years exactly. But he's going to try to compare anyway, 12 years apart, and assume that Jupiter should be in the same place each time vertically relative to the Sun. Okay, so that's not the worst of his problems. The worst is right here, actually. May 2000, that's not Jupiter. That's actually Mercury. Mercury had just emerged from the occulting disk here, and if you look on Celestia, May 10th, 2000, from the approximate position of SOHO, looking towards the Sun, we see Mercury to the left, Jupiter down and to the right, and Saturn below the Sun. Now, he's got it pretty tightly cropped here, so all you can see is Mercury, but he backs out now, and you can see Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury. Now, I compared to an image taken that day using Celestia, and indeed we see Jupiter, Mercury, and Saturn are right where they should be. In fact, the orbital elements for Jupiter I got here were derived directly from elements from George Hill that he computed in 1890, and I simply computed based on his data for May 10th, 2000, and put that into Celestia, and sure enough we see it's right where it should be in the image. We're registering this image here compared to the background stars, that's why it's rotated. You have to do that because the image orientation is not fixed. And sure enough, we see the background stars are where they should be, and so is Jupiter. So we'll play the video some more. So now he compares to May 11th, 2012. And he notices that indeed the spacecraft itself has rotated 180 degrees sometime between those 2 points in time. So you have to compensate for that, which at least he does in terms of moving the images physically up and down so that the occulting disk is on the same level. But he's comparing Jupiter to Mercury. He's not even comparing Jupiter to Jupiter now. And he seems to try to address my criticism, which he didn't actually allow into the comments section, but yeah, the same stars are present. The rotation's actually a little bit different, but he's saying, okay, they're the same stars there, and Jupiter's position relative to those stars has changed. Well, again, it's not Jupiter, and Jupiter's orbit's not 12 years long. You have to compare relative to the predicted position. They may say, well, what if NASA's lying about the predicted position? Well, that's why I'm not using data from NASA. I'm using data that predates NASA by decades, and it's still right where it should be. Now, the question is it still right where it should be in May 2012? Well, we can find out. So, here's an image from May 2012. In this case, we only have one planet to deal with on May 11th, so nothing to get confused over. And indeed, when you adjust the image to be overlaid on top of Celestia compared to the background stars, we see that Jupiter's right where it should be. And you can also see that the rotation of the image is quite different relative to the previous image. But no, there's nothing wrong with Jupiter's orbit, even according to data that's over 100 years old. So he compares it to a couple more time points that are a few days more advanced. This time point here I actually covered in my previous video, so I'm not going to cover it again, but we looked at that and saw that Jupiter's right where it should be in that image. Yeah, this one right here. All these planets, in fact, lined up properly. But of course we're talking specifically here about Jupiter, and that one as well lined up, which you can see in my previous video on this subject. So he's now blocked all comments from his video, so I have no hope of even trying to leave this video as a response. He blocked any attempt I made at leaving my previous video as a response on his previous video, as well as a link to the GIF animation where I directly compared this image here to the background on Celestia and lined up the stars and saw, yeah, it's all okay. Jupiter's right where it should be. Yeah, there you have it. This is the best I can do for a response since he's now blocking comments, and gee, I wonder why he's doing that. Guess he's getting a little too much criticism, and clearly he's not capable of refuting it. He just keeps going back to the same drawing board and making the same mistakes over and over. But I'm not sure whether that's intentional or not, but it is a mistake, and Jupiter is right where it should be. Hope you have a nice day.